Good day, Deeper Word family. Welcome to day 141 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 16 through 18 of the book of Jeremiah. The theme of this whole chapter is the day of disaster. And so I'm just going to start reading and then, kind of insert here and there. So right here in verse 1, it says, "The word of Yahuah came also to me, saying, You shall not take a wife, nor shall you have sons and daughters in this place. For thus says Yahuah concerning the sons and the daughters who are born in this place, and concerning their mothers who bore them, and concerning their fathers who fathered them in this land. They will die of deadly diseases. They will not be lamented, nor shall they be buried, but they will be as dung upon the face of the earth." Y'all, you know what dung is, right? So he's saying they will be disregarded, right? "And they will be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their carcasses will be food for the fowl and for the beasts of the earth." Now, can you imagine if that was Jeremiah's heart to, take a wife and have children, and he's living in a time where judgment is coming upon the land, and Abba just told him, no, this is not your plot. Now imagine Jeremiah could have went, against this instruction, but he himself would have been destroyed, right, for disobeying his command. This is a time of judgment in all of Israel. It seems like as if Jeremiah is the Noah in this story, and all else have been compromised. And he is protecting Jeremiah by doing his will, right? By Jeremiah doing the will of Yah. And he's saying, look, this is not the time. This is not the time to have children. I don't want you mixing yourself with these people, because these people are designated for disaster. Why? Because the works of their hands, sin, and the payment is death. Then Yahuah tells Jeremiah, he says, do not take up a lament, do not cry, do not mourn for these people. And he says, do not even go and sit down and eat and feast with them. He says, I am going to cause the sound of joy, laughter, the sound of the bridegroom and the bride, right? Because weddings were huge, everyone would participate in weddings back in the days. And he says, I'm going to stop that joy from going on in this place. And he says, do not mix and mingle with them. Don't take up a lament, because they are designated for my destruction. Then Yahuah instructs Jeremiah to tell the people, when they ask him, Jeremiah, why are all of these words of disaster being pronounced against us? This is to be his response. And it is, because your fathers have forsaken me, says Yahuah, and have walked after other gods, and have served them, and have worshipped them, but have forsaken me, and have not kept my Torah. And you have done worse than your fathers, for here you are, each one walking after the imaginations of his own evil heart, so that they do not listen to me. Therefore I will cast you out of this land, and into a land that you do not know, neither you nor your fathers. And there you will serve other gods day and night, because I will not show you favor. He's essentially saying, you're going to do what you've always been doing, but you're just not going to be doing it in my house. You getting up out of my house. So you can do your wickedness, your ratchetness, right, in foreign lands with foreign gods, and you can serve them and be wicked over there. But I'm not going to allow you to do it in my house anymore. And yes, this is ultimately to teach them a lesson, because he's been merciful and he's been kind. But they're going to go into a foreign land where people are not merciful and they are not kind, and they are going to see what it's like to live without him. Verse 14, therefore, surely the days are coming, says Yahuah, that it will no longer be said, as Yahuah lives, who brought up the sons out of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but as Yahuah lives, who brought up the sons of Israel from the lands of the north, and from the lands wherever he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave to their fathers. He's saying the story is going to change, right? Now, before, you were in a foreign land and you were slaves unto another nation, and I saved you. But now the story is going to be that I brought you back because you were disobedient and you were exiled. So he's saying, no matter what, I'm still going to bring you back, because I'm going to fulfill the promises that I made to Abraham. Then Yahuah says that he's going to send fishermen for them and hunters to hunt them down. And he says, my eyes are upon all of their ways. There is nothing that is hidden from me. And he says, I will pay doubly, right? Doubly for their iniquity and for their sin, because they have defiled my land and have filled my inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. He goes, look, my eyes see everything. There's nothing that can be hidden from me. And he says, I'm going to pay them a double portion, right? The blessing A double portion blessing is for being faithful, but he's saying, I'm going to pay you a double portion for the curses and the sins that you have brought upon other people and upon my land. You have defiled it completely. Then in between verses 19 and 20, Jeremiah is, crying out to the Father, saying that you are my saving grace. You have been my fortress, throughout all of this. And then he also says, how could your people forsake you, the one true living God, for the works of their own hands, right? These dumb things that they made with their hands that they're bowing down to. And then it goes back to Yahuah speaking about, this double portion of payment for their sins. And he says, therefore, surely I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Yahuah. And why is Yahuah saying this? That they will know my name? Because they're calling upon other gods, right? Or they're calling upon the names of demons. Now, if you go back to Exodus chapter 20 and you get into this portion of the 10 commandments, right? The first 10 words. And before he says, you shall have no other gods, he says, you shall acknowledge that I am your God, and I am the one who brought you out from under the hand of your oppressors, right? So he says right here, verse 2 of Exodus chapter 20, I am Yahuah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, right? And they have forgotten that. They have forgotten that they were taken out of oppression, right? And they have been rescued and set apart as this glorious people to make his name known. He says, well, you forgot my name, and there's no way you can make the other nations know me because you don't know me. Chapter 17 goes in about Judah's sin and punishment. So let's start with verse 1. It says, the sin of Judah is written with an iron pen and with a diamond point. It is engraved on the tablet of their heart and on the horns of their altars. As they remember their children, so they remember their altars and their groves by the green trees and on the high hills. What is he saying here? That all of their sins are testifying against them. They have left evidence upon the tablet of their hearts, and they've also left the evidence of the altars that they have placed all across the earth, right? He's like, you think I don't see that? He's like, you remember more your altars, your foreign altars, than you remember me. Then in verse 3, Yahuah speaks to his holy mountain, and this is what he says. Oh, my mountain in the field, I will give your wealth and all of your treasures to the destroyer, which is Babylon. And he says, in your high places for sin throughout all of your borders. And then chapter 4, it switches over to the people. And he says, you, even yourself, will discontinue from your heritage that I gave you. And I will cause you to serve your enemies in a land which you do not know, for you have kindled a fire in my anger, which will burn forever. He's saying, I will always be jealous over you because you are my people. I set you apart for myself. I will always burn for you. And then Yahuah speaks of the cursing and then the blessing, because that's what covenant day is. It's letting you know, look, up front, this is the blessing for being true to me, but this is the curse, right? If you go back to the ancient covenant ceremony that our father had with Abraham, right? That is a picture. When the animal was cut into two, that's the ceremony that you both walk through the carcass, and that if you ever break the covenant, your fate would be like that of the animal. And so this is what he is reminding them of. Verse 9, the heart is more deceitful than all things and desperately wicked. Who can trust it? It says, I, Yahuah, search the heart and I test the mind, even to give to every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his deeds. That is works, okay? Now, again, we don't preach a works-based salvation, but once you come to the point of salvation, right, now you are renewed. Now you are born of the Spirit. So now you walk by the Spirit and you do the works of the Spirit. And the works of the Spirit are life. The payment for that is life, and life more abundantly. Verse 11 through 13, as a partridge sits on eggs which it has not laid, so is he who gets riches but not justly. It will forsake him in the midst of his days, and in the end he will be a fool. A glorious high throne from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. O Yahuah, the hope of Israel, all who forsake you will be ashamed. Those who depart from me in the earth will be written down, because they have forsaken Yahuah, the fountain of living waters. And then Jeremiah prays for deliverance. This is what he says. Heal me, O Yahuah, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved, for you are my praise. See how they say to me, where is the word of Yahuah? Let it come now. As for me, I have not hurried away from being a shepherd after you, nor have I desired the woeful day. You yourself know that which came out of my lips was in your presence. Do not be a terror to me. You are my hope in the day of disaster. Let those who persecute me be humiliated, but let not me be humiliated. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil and destroy them with a double portion. It is important to understand Jeremiah's prayer about a double portion, right? Setting out the double portion for their sin, because the very next part, he talks about keeping the Sabbath, right? Yahuah tells Jeremiah that if you go out and you proclaim to Judah and all of the inhabitants that if they keep true to my Sabbath, then this double portion of sin will not be poured out, right? Now, the Sabbath is connected to a double portion blessing because he told them, right, on the day of preparation to go out, right, and pick up the manna and get a double portion so that they can eat on that Friday and they can eat on that Saturday all the way till sundown. So for 2 days, they would be blessed with a double portion because they were obedient to his command. And because they're not obedient to his commands, they will get a double portion of his wrath instead. Then chapter 18 opens up and it talks about the potter and the clay. And so Yahuah tells Jeremiah to go into the potter's house and to watch the work of his hands. And so the potter starts to make this vessel, but it spoils in his hands, but he remakes it over into something else. And so Yahuah says, indeed, I shall do to my people the same as the potter has done to the clay. Although I have destined them first for this glory and to keep them safe and to bless them, but because they have forsaken me, I will make them a vessel for destruction instead. Verse 11, now therefore speak to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, thus says Yahuah, look, I am shaping disaster against you and devising a plan against you. Repent now, everyone from his evil way, and make your ways and your deeds good. So he's giving them a chance to turn back, right? He has pronounced judgment, but he says, repent. And these things don't have to happen, right? But they say, there is no hope. But we will walk after our own devices, and each of us will do according to the stubbornness of our own evil heart, right? So he's merciful. He gave them a chance, although he pronounced the judgment, and they were like, oh, there's no hope. There's no hope. We're just going to continue in the ways that we have been doing. Is that not the attitude of the world right now? Because they see disaster all across the earth, and they're like, there's no hope. So they're just going to continue to live however they want. But they don't understand how the natural is connected to the spiritual things. So if people are defiled and they're going against the righteous laws of Yahuah Elohim, then the earth and the heavens will testify against the inhabitants. So people aren't aware that because they decide to continue to walk in disobedience, they will continue to see more disaster. Now we get into verse 18 and on through the rest of the chapter, we see that because Jeremiah is speaking these words of truth from the Father to the people, now they are devising a plan against him, right? So he just told them Yahuah is devising a plan against them for evil, and now they want to do the same to Jeremiah, right? They're mad at the messenger, but he's only speaking the words of the Father. And it says, then they said, come, let us devise plans against Jeremiah. For the law will not be lost from the priest, nor the counsel from the wise, nor the word from the prophet. Come, let us strike him with the tongue, and let us not give heed to any more of his words. Rebellion, rebellion to the very end. Then in verse 19, you see that Jeremiah switches up, because beforehand he had a soft and tender heart towards his people, but now he sees that his people are completely wicked and they are defiled, and now they want to destroy him because he's speaking the word of Yahuah. So now he's crying out to Yahuah and he's saying, remember me. Remember that I am the lone star standing in this place, speaking on your behalf. And remember those who contend against me. And so now he's saying, give them what they deserve. His heart is changed now. So he's like, all right, pay them the double portion for their sin. Instead of the double portion of blessing for following you, give them their payment. Now we see that Jeremiah is like, okay, well, they can't be saved. They cannot be saved. I've done everything. And so this is a tragedy, because I know that if you have a heart for people, you feel the same way, right? You feel the same way. You want to cover them. You want to intercede for them. There are some that at the very end, no matter what, they're going to rebel. And so that is going to be their plot. It is going to be destruction, and it's going to be death, and death eternal. It's a bit somber because that is the plot for many, because there's only going to be a small remnant who actually see the salvation of Yah, and that is because they remain true. The blessing is that we hearken to his voice, we walk by the Spirit, and we do works of the Spirit to complement our salvation. And unfortunately, many will not, they refuse to be saved. One thing that many will not tolerate is a Savior, and many refuse to be saved. They want their own way, no matter what. And so he's not going to violate their will. He will give them what they want. But if what you want is him, he will give himself to you as well. And so that is, the conclusion of what we should be able to see while going through these chapters. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.